It's not black. It's reflecting.
All right. Hello, everyone. Excuse me. I'm going to be doing a presentation on my Internet of Things Door project. I'm Daniel. So the name Internet of Things Door Project can be a little bit misleading because it's about a lot more than a door. It's about just having a platform to sort of explore and learn from. If you ever have cheap electronics that you're looking at on eBay and you ever want to explore with them, having a project like this can be a good platform to have. So I'm going to start by showing you sort of how it works and all the cool features it has. And then I'm going to go into talking about how it works, and then I'm going to talk about how you can have something like this too. So this is the standby behavior when there's sort of nothing's happening. You can see I have an LED strip around the door, and then when someone walks by, there's a motion detector, and that detects it, and it goes white to light up the hallway. Okay. Then there's also a touch sensor on the people. So just kind of for fun, if you walk up to it and you put your finger on the people, it does this cool psychedelic effect, which is just kind of fun. You're not really solving any problems, it's just fun. Then we also have this display on the door, and that displays the status of my roommate and I. So we can say whether we're in or whether we're away, and we can set our status using a smartphone app. And this is where the internet comes into this. So as you can see, using this website, we can set our status to pretty much anything. Then if we move over onto the inside of the room, I have these lights on the ceiling. They're sort of extensions of the room light. My original idea was to take the light down and sort of modify it, but it turns out that's against university policy, so I can't do that. Instead, I mounted these lights on the ceiling that you can see there and there with really cool lampshades. And we can control them from the same smartphone app that I showed earlier. And this is integrated in the door. I'll show you how this is part of the door later. Believe it or not, this is part of the door project. Then I was getting kind of tired of having to get my phone out every time I wanted to turn the lights on and off. So I started doing some research, and I found that you can actually build an Alexa around a Raspberry Pi. Oh, it's muted. Alexa.
Yes.
Trigger lights on.
Sending them to it.
Alexa.
Yes.
Trigger door light.
Sending them to it.
Alexa.
Yes.
Trigger lights off.
Sending them to it.
Alright, so as you can see, now I'm able to control the lights in my room with the door by just talking to it. And I want to reiterate, I didn't buy an Alexa, I built one. Just using tutorials that I found online. You don't need to have to invest a lot of money to have this kind of thing. The microphone I bought was like $5. So here's a look at the rat's nest. As you can see, it's not like a refined product. And the way that it's kind of a mess of wires is sort of a symptom of it being a project that grew organically. It's not something where I had this idea in my head of what I was going to build. It's sort of I just started with something and moved on from there and just added things. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with it being messy. It's just for fun. So here's a block diagram. This is how it all works. So the Raspberry Pi is at the center of everything, and that kind of goes out, and it's running all the code that I've written for it. So it's talking to the internet, which has my home automation software. So the home automation software is talking to the internet, which is talking to the Raspberry Pi. Then Alexa is communicating with the home automation software. So I can control the lights that way through this route right here. Then the Raspberry Pi is controlling directly an RF transmitter. And the RF transmitter is for the room lights, as I showed you earlier. So if I actually have a picture here. If you've ever seen these in the hardware store, these are remote controlled outlets. And you can get like a 5-pack of these for $20. And then you can get a transmitter that transmits exactly the same as this remote control for like $1 from eBay. Now, that transmitter can be connected to the Raspberry Pi or the Arduino. And in this case, I have it connected to the Raspberry Pi. Then that allows me to control room lights with the Raspberry Pi. So now I can write code, and I can control the room lights with my code. And now it's connected into this whole thing, so I can control room lights with any of these inputs. So then up here we have the capacitive sensor and motion detector. And the motion detector is on the outside of the door, it detects when someone walks by. The capacitive sensor just detects when someone touches the people, like I showed. And those are talking to the Arduino. And the Arduino is sending signals to the LED strips on the front, and it's controlling the color. It's also, it's controlling the color of the LED strips. Then it's also sending the text to the LCD display to tell it what to display. And the Raspberry Pi can also tell it, set Daniel status to away. And then it'll tell the Arduino that, and then it'll go to the LCD. So the most important thing to realize with this project is that it wasn't like an idea that I just had and I just did all this all at once. It was something that kind of grew over time by going through a series of problem and solutions. So I had a problem, then I addressed that with a solution. And the original problem was that people were knocking on our door while we were studying. And there's lots of ways to address that. One of the, you could have a whiteboard on the front of the door and you could just write to not knock or whatever. But that's not over-engineering. If you want to have fun, you have to over-engineer it. So we needed to be able to indicate our status without walking to the door. And how can you over-engineer that, but with an Arduino LED strips and touch sensors? So the original idea was to have the LED strip light up a different color when someone touches the doorknob. So if someone walks up to the door and they touch the doorknob, it lights up red. That means we don't want them to come in, But, so yeah, this was the original block diagram that would have done that. Passive sensor, Arduino, and just the color changing LED strip. This was what I started with. And over time, it grew into this, what you just saw. However, there was a problem with connecting it to the doorknob, and that was whenever the door was closed, the touch sensor was getting triggered. Turns out the door frame in our room is made of metal, and that was triggering. It was triggering the capacitive sensor. It was thinking that something was touching it because that metal object was coming in contact. So I needed to detect touches on something other than the doorknob. So, it's not an ideal solution, but I attached it to the peephole instead. Sometimes there's compromises. Sometimes things just don't work. And I spent a lot of time trying to get the doorknob to work, but it never did. So this process of problems and solutions continued until I have the system that I have now. And that involved things like, say, wanting to use my phone to control everything. So I needed to set up some home automation software. I needed to find a way to do that. Or, maybe display a message on the door. Oh, that's kind of cool. That'd be fun. So add a $6 LCD display. It's all it costs. It's cheap. One of the biggest problems was that people were annoyed with the color changing, when they get up to use the bathroom in the middle of the night. Our neighbors would be like, this is annoying. So I had to write a little script that grabs the time from the internet after 11 p.m. And after 11 p.m. it just turns off, basically. So, these are all things that will come up when you're building a project, and that's how you get get from a small project to a big project. And some of the solutions were really solutions looking for a problem, like the motion detector, the touch sensor. Those don't really provide any function. They're just kind of fun, and that's okay too because you learn from that. So, what features does the door have? It can control the lights in our room with Alexa or from a website. That's probably the most functional thing, and it's not even related to the door at all, but it is mounted on the door. It is part of that whole thing. We can display status messages on the door. That's pretty useful too, when we remember to update our status. We can light up the hallway when people walk by. Again, maybe something looking for a problem, but that's okay. There can be fun effects, and that's definitely a solution looking for a problem. But the most important thing is that this is a platform that I can experiment with. So if I go on eBay and I see like this cool cool motion detector, say. This is actually what happened. I went on eBay, I saw a motion detector. I'm like, oh, I can buy that. That's $2. And then I just had to think about how can I integrate that into what I have already. And it doesn't take much effort to do that once you have a platform already built. So it's really valuable to have this platform that you can just experiment with. And that's why, it could be anything. It could be a door project, it could be a bed project, it could be a desk project. It could be anything. You just need an Arduino that you can plug stuff into and play with. So the takeaway here is that the door is really just a platform that I can build on, I can have fun with, I can learn from. And you can have your own platform too. It's not expensive to do this kind of thing. Arduinos are cheap. You can get them from eBay for sub $5. And there's also Arduinos with Wi-Fi built in, so you can even get connected to the internet right away and start building your own things. And those are also very, very cheap. Then, that way, when you have ideas, you can start playing with them, you can execute them, you can learn. So don't wait until you have the knowledge to do this either, because there's a lot of information available online. I haven't taken any classes in this kind of thing. It's really just stuff that I've looked up and I learned from Google, and you look up tutorials and you learn how to put them together in new ways and build something cool that way. It's just an integration of various tutorials that you find online. That's really what it is. So that's it. Are there any questions?
I'm just curious, you have that phone software. Was that an app, and what was it?
So that's called Home Assistant. If we go back to the block diagram, it's called Home Assistant, and that's something that I found online. I just Googled home automation software. I didn't want to write my own code for that. That's a lot of stuff to write. So just found something off the shelf, and it was free. I had to install it on a server, but it was free, and it provides an app that you can use to control stuff.
Why do you have an Arduino and a Raspberry Pi? That's so
dumb. Yes. It is dumb. So like you saw, I swear this was a question yesterday. Like you saw here, I just have the Arduino. And as the project got more complex, in particular, when I wanted to add some more Internet of Things-y things, the Raspberry Pi was really valuable for that because it has built-in Wi-Fi. You can write more complex software for it. You can run servers on it. So my original plan was to just have the Raspberry Pi. I didn't want to have the Arduino at all. I just wanted to have everything connected to the Raspberry Pi. But ultimately, what it came down to is that I had trouble getting the LED strip to look good when it was running on the Raspberry Pi. And that's because to dim and fade through different colors, you have to pulse the colors really quickly. It's called PWM. And when you pulse them really quickly, if you pulse them quick enough, you can't see that it's flickering. You just see that it's dimming down based on how much you're flickering it. Now, so the Raspberry Pi isn't actually capable of flickering it fast enough, so you can see a visible flicker if you look at it. And it was actually enough it was bothering me enough that I had to add an Arduino because it's just better at doing PWM. So I added the Arduino, and then it just turned out that it was easier to plug these things into the Arduino than it was the Raspberry Pi, so I just used it. It's pretty arbitrary.
Also, because Arduino is made for sensors.
Yes.
And Raspberry Pi is made for computation.
The Raspberry Pi can connect to things, it's just not as good at it.
Yeah. So you combine them together, and that's
Yeah.
So I guess the Raspberry Pi, it's running a timeshare operating system.
Yeah.
Right? So, but Arduino is just dedicated.
Yeah, so the Arduino has hardware for creating PWM signals. The Raspberry Pi is just bit banging it. It's just in software, it's just saying on off really quickly. And that's not quite as fast as the hardware-based PWM.
So what's the code? So how much code? So you wrote Arduino, I take it in C?
So, yeah, actually I used it, again, by Googling, I found a framework called Johnny 5 for the Raspberry Pi, and that's in JavaScript. And I wrote all my code in JavaScript for that. And then it uses something called Fermata for the Arduino, which you just push it to the Arduino. You don't have to write any Arduino code. And then you just do everything in JavaScript on the Raspberry Pi, and you have the Arduino plugged in with USB, and it just finds the Arduino, and it takes care of it for you. It's really simple. In fact, if I wanted to, like, say, take the motion detector or one of these and just plug it into the Raspberry Pi, it would be one line of code change, and then it would work again. It's that simple. You just tell it which board it's plugged into. All right, any other questions? Rod?
Have you had any interference with people hacking into your system or interference from neighboring doors?
No, but should I be worried now?
Hey,
Are you considering something? Now that I've explained how it all works. It's behind the school's firewalls, it'll be okay. All right.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So now that you've done this whole door project, how is the dining hall food?
That's my next project, is improving the dining hall.
First with an IoT.
Yeah, IoT dining hall. That's right.
IoT step first.
Oh, so say a little bit more about the Alexa. So
Yeah.
you built your own
Yeah,
Alexa. So why is it an Alexa?
It turns out Amazon has APIs available, and they've even
Files.
built software that you just install it on the Raspberry Pi,
And
and it works.
And then-
It's that simple. Like Amazon, because they want people to be using an Alexa, because they gain information from it. They benefit from people using it, even if it's for free. So they put software out, and you can build one on a Raspberry Pi.
Okay, so you built an Alexa on the Raspberry.
What is an Alexa? I missed that.
Oh, so have you heard of the Amazon Echo?
Yeah.
It's just that.
Okay.
It's just, except I didn't buy the Echo hardware.
Right.
I just have the AI, the voice, the communication stuff running on the Raspberry Pi.
So this project, you can tell the door to open for you, or something?
I don't have any like motors or anything to turn the doorknob or anything. That's coming next. I'm thinking about adding a scanner on the outside so that we can have a tag, and we just tap it up on the scanner, and then it'll recognize that. My roommate and I will have one, and then it'll turn the doorknob, and that's something I'm thinking about doing. It's more complicated. Mechanical engineering sort of beyond my grasp, but I'll figure it out.
Well, I mean, if you've already got the Arduino, then
Yeah.
you just have to act. I mean, like, especially for locking,
Yeah.
a lot of people pay ridiculous prices for security when really, I don't know how much less secure this would be.
Well, when Rod hacks it,
That's a different topic.
yeah, security is a
It's
different
important.
concern. I'm sure it wouldn't be as secure. Yeah, but it would be easy to add software-wise and electronically. The difficult part is just figuring out how to grip the doorknob and turn it. Like, that's really what it comes down to.
As far as that goes, the biggest thing about security is just making sure that the motors wires aren't easily available, because anybody that has any electronical knowledge will be like, and it'll open for them.
Sure, I guess there's the physical security of it and making sure that the wires aren't easily accessible, but also software-wise, you want to make sure that no one can access the code or access the Raspberry Pi itself and just tell it to actuate the doorknob. If we go back to this, you can see I've started thinking about doing this. I bought one of these lever things for people with carpal tunnel, and it just makes it easier to open the doorknob. I was thinking having a lever might make it easier to pull it out. We'll see. Stay tuned next year. All right.
See this topic already set.
Yeah. Okay, is that it?
Great job. We keep doing our